Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, November 3rd town hall meeting hosted by the Lincoln Project. I am running the ship. My name is Galen, one of the co-founders. I'm so glad that so many of you have joined us. We're going to talk a lot about Wisconsin, but we've got time, so we'll get to some other places as well. I want to introduce my guests for tonight and thank them for coming. First is Jason Berlin of Field Team 6. Jason, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And also with us is Jamie Carter of Demcast USA. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
So Jamie, tell us a little bit about Demcast and what you guys do.
You know, our basic is we're trying to be the digital messaging of the left and really empowering people to use their own social media accounts to spread messages.
And so how do you walk us through a little bit about how you come up with the content, how you find folks to distribute it, how you ask them to distribute it? I mean, there's, you know, I know for a long time it was Facebook, sometimes it's email. How do you
you know, we have Facebook groups, we have Twitter jam groups, Instagram groups. We send out text messages with social media toolkits. You know, whatever the latest news of the day is, we try to do those little sound bites, you know, information from campaigns itself, from groups on the ground like Field Team 6, and just kind of putting it in an easy, digestible social media toolkit, because we know that most people get their news from social media and they're going to trust people they know. And so really, people are the trusted messengers to get factual information out and to combat disinformation in this day and age.
Well, and there's certainly no shortage of that, as we have seen. As we just continue to see. Just, you know, as a note, you have to wonder at the ability to be so malicious, to be such a liar that, like a Carrie Lake down in Arizona, who says, if you believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes in 2020, you're the conspiracy theorist, right? Like, to say there's no shame is an insult to the shameless. So, Jason, tell us a little bit about Field Team 6, what y'all do, and what you're hoping to get done here in the next few days.
Yeah, thank you. So, Field Team 6, we're a volunteer army with a simple mission: register Democrats, save the world. And the people who save the world are, of course, the voters we register, who are a large majority women, young people, people of color. We focus on 9 target states this cycle, swing battlegrounds where just a few new Democrats can have an outsized impact. So far, altogether, since 2019, our volunteers have helped register over 1.5 million Democratic voters across the country. And we're hoping to lift that number to 2.5 million, you know, over the course of this year through the next 4 days now. Deep breath. After today, we're still doing stuff today, but when it's done, before that.
Right.
Yeah, so Wisconsin is one of those key states that we're working in right now.
So before we got on, Jason, you were telling us a little bit about some of the vagaries of how you vote and the different rules in Wisconsin. So for the folks that live in Wisconsin, who may not know this, who may not have cast their ballot, may not even be registered quite yet. Tell us a little bit about how it works up there.
Okay, so Wisconsin has some brutal voter repression, and that applies to the voter registration process too, in general. However, it's still absolutely possible to get registered. One good thing that they do have in Wisconsin is their online registration deadline has passed, but you can still register and vote on election day. So on November 8th at your polling place, you can register, which is a one saving grace of voter registration in Wisconsin. So we're getting the word out to everyone we can. Every unregistered likely Democrat who we have in our database, we are texting and emailing and you know, making phone calls to getting the word out.
And Jamie, how are you guys seeing Wisconsin? How do you see Wisconsin? I know that you've got this like encyclopedia of these target states locked up in your brain. What are you seeing up there?
You know, I think it's gonna be close, but I certainly think, and sorry, can I have a cat get into
That's okay
now?
We all need election cats.
Yes. Yes, it's a Demcast. But, you know, it is very possible that we flip this Senate seat, that we can hold on to the governor's mansion, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. And early voting numbers look great. And even in Wisconsin's 3rd district, which is supposed to be a likely Republican, early vote numbers are, Democrats are killing it. There is a good chance to flip a seat that nobody has on their radar.
And who are the candidates in that particular district?
I forgot on that.
One of them's like a real big like election denier guy, right?
Brad Pfaff is the Democrat in Wisconsin's
Right.
3rd. And yes, that is absolutely on our radar. That's one of the districts that we've been targeting. Since Ron Kind was kind of a moderate Democrat who represented the district for a while,
right.
And it was a victory that he was the representative instead of a Republican who, you know, district would normally go to. He's leaving, and so a new Democrat is running. Ron Kind has endorsed Brad Pfaff. It's spelled Pfaff, and that's great to hear, Jamie, that he is a good shot.
So let's talk a little bit. So for us guys, as you all probably know, and the folks that are watching out there, you know, from our perspective, the existential states in our mind, these are the ones that have, you know, not only who gets elected in 2022 and how they govern matters a great deal, but also their impact on the 2024 campaign. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona. Wisconsin, you know, the gubernatorial race there has been very close. You know, Tony Evers, I think, has raised more money than any maybe candidate for governor in Wisconsin history, but certainly any Democrat. And so, Jason, how are you feeling about that race? Because I know that it's very close. I know that Tim Michels, the Republican, sort of, you know, played. You know, he sort of tried to have it both ways. We've got a spot getting shown at the end that tells you exactly how he feels about who's going to vote and how they think everybody's going to win. But give us a sense of how you feel about that race, because from what we see, it's just, as so many of these things, it's too close to call.
I think that's absolutely right. I think it's a true toss-up, which is insane. We absolutely need Tony Evers there. Ben Wickler, who is the, you know, chairman of the WisDems, the Wisconsin Democratic Party, who's been a light in the darkness. He's been an amazing organizer. Has talked about how Wisconsin is really it's ground zero for democracy, and it's the backstop for it. And Governor Tony Evers is part of that because he has vetoed so many terrible ideas that come out of the Republican-run legislature. And without him there to keep vetoing those terrible ideas, along with Democratic governors and the rest of the blue wall in Michigan and Pennsylvania, it's going to be really tough to keep election deniers from getting into office.
And Jamie, in the Senate race there, you've got the incumbent Senator Ron Johnson, famous for any number of insane things, but also literally trying to hand fake electors to then Vice President Mike Pence on January 6th. Also admitted in a tape that a friend of ours recorded that he knows that Trump lost Wisconsin fair and square. He said that he's all for cutting Social Security and Medicare. For the Democrats, you have Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes is the nominee there. Again, very close. Not surprising. Mandela is an African American gentleman, and we can see that as I like to say, guys, and it sounds funnier than it is that it's October. Well, it's now November. It's an even year, so for Republicans, it's time to scare the white people.
Yep, basically. And we have to remember that murder rate per capita, violent crime per capita is highest in the red states. 9 out of the 10 states with the highest murder rates are Republican-led states. So it's all it is a scare tactic. But I don't know if it's going to work on suburban white women, because at the same time they're trying to scare them. They're trying to take away their fundamental freedom. So.
And Jamie, how are you seeing, I do feel like every year, it was soccer moms, NASCAR dads, right? And now we're back to suburban white moms generally, right? They seem to be the unicorns every year. How do you see the Dobbs decision affecting them?
I think it is going to affect more than the pundits and the polls are saying. I mean, this is your fundamental right to choose. And, I'm 50, I'm older. And I think it's even more important to me because now it's affecting, my grandchildren and their right to choose. And you're seeing that same with suburban dads, the attack on their daughters. And so I think it's really going to reverberate across the election. And, when I'm phone banking and I'm text banking into these states, what I'm hearing from Democrats that I'm talking to, even knocking doors in my own precinct, is grim determination that we have one shot to save democracy and to save our freedoms.
And Jason, let me ask you this: as you guys are out, my camera locked up, so I'll just keep talking. As you guys are out.
Oh, we lost him.
How do you think his sentence ends? Oh, here it is.
There I am. Gremlins are at work. Let's say hello to our friends in St. Petersburg. How are you seeing the youth vote? When I say the youth vote, I want to start with college kids and then go on to younger voters.
Okay, so and Jamie may be able to speak to this, with her encyclopedic knowledge of which voters are showing up. What I can say is that our latest guidance is that youth turnout is not what we were hoping for, but a lot of them are planning specifically on coming out on election day. So that may reverse itself. There was a Harvard study recently that had 40%, I believe, of young people saying they are extremely likely to vote, which is up about double from the last midterm. There have been numerous studies saying things like this. And what we're trying to do with our organizing, and especially now in these last 4.5 days where people are really paying attention, is get out there and meet everyone where they are. All the women and allies who are affected by the overturning of Roe, all the LGBTQ plus people and allies who see their rights in the crosshairs, everyone affected, all the young people affected by climate crises and ongoing gun violence, and everyone who can see that the Republicans are mounting this concerted national attack on the machinery of our democracy. Meet them where they are, get them registered to vote, turn those good-hearted people into good-hearted voters, and get them out there. And we're seeing a huge response rate to our organizing. Like, for example, text banks.
Go ahead.
Just what this last thing in 2020, in that cycle, our best text banks had a click-through rate on our voter registration link of about 0.5%. And this cycle, they're averaging 3%, 6 times that. It's blowing it out of the water. So I think people are really engaging in a way we haven't seen in a long time.
Jamie, what's, I mean, I've always, maybe it's because as an old Republican, college kids rarely voted. If they actually got out to vote, they rarely voted for us. But given the nature of the issues that you guys have both mentioned, which I think probably choice and the environment are at the top of those lists, because I think that one, so many young women were, up until that Friday, were the freest people, some of the freest people humanity's ever known, and by lunchtime they weren't, and that they're just much more attuned, I think, to the environment, as a core sort of existential issue than we were as we were coming up. So what is it? Just the it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm too tired, or is there just let me ask it a different way. Is the none of this really matters messaging that is just so ingrained in the Republicans, is that starting to work? That's what I'm afraid of.
No, I don't think so. I think that you hear a lot of disinformation about mail-in voting, a lot of confusion with laws changing. And so certainly a lot of the young people that I've talked to, they want to make sure that their vote is counted. So that's why they think if they go in person early this weekend where you're able, or go Tuesday, that they know that their vote will be counted. because of the misinformation, disinformation campaigns, primarily from the Republicans on mail-in voting. It makes them a little bit nervous. And so
Yeah.
I have not talked to a single young voter who is not ready to vote this year.
But I mean, I think it's interesting that, we saw that, what Trump did with mail-in voting, very would have cost him the election in 2020 when he just decided it wasn't legitimate or whatever, it was rigged or whatever. But I guess I want to ask you guys this question. Are you seeing that kind of stuff that started specifically with a Trump or a Republican, an ultra MAGA talking point? Are you seeing some of that bleeding in, even by osmosis, to people who you wouldn't think would believe it?
I think to some degree, yes. You take Pennsylvania, for example, and all the confusion on how the mail-in ballots have to be done. Supreme Court, just ruled that if they're not dated, then they're thrown out. But then the state Supreme Court ruled that they have to give them a chance to cure the ballot. And so there's all of this confusion. And so I think that hurts across party lines when you don't know for sure if your ballot's going to be counted, if your vote's going to be counted. And so, you want to make sure, I think, in some cases.
Yeah, and I think, Jason, that's I think Jamie makes a good point there, which is a lot of times when you see these, onerous requirements on absentee ballots, mail ballots, even even going to a polling place, is that we understand that they're trying to make sure that enough of the voters they don't want to participate don't, right? But that if you are relying, if your electorate, the people you need, are largely older voters, right, making it more confusing and more difficult doesn't do them any good either.
That's true. It's true. It can also backfire. And you're exactly right. That is what voter suppression looks like. He'll be back. I know he will. Yeah. That's what, it's an emotional roller coaster.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, when you try to suppress someone's vote, especially with the young voters, saying,
Right.
I don't want you to do this, the more you tell a young person, I don't want you to, the more likely they're going to be like, well, F you, I'm doing it, because that's their instinct.
That's true. Definitely. Young people, also everyone else, it can backfire. But
look at the black vote turnout in Georgia this year. All that voter suppression they tried to do, black vote totals are up.
Right. That's amazing. And when people say, but you can't out-organize cheating, in fact, you can. In fact, that is exactly what we've done in 2018 in the blue wave midterms, in 2020 to beat Trump, and now. That's always what has been done. It's been a race between organizing and cheating, and you can out-organize it. People did, and that miracle in 2021 in January, 2 Democratic Senate seats in a Georgia runoff. That's proof of that.
Look at the special election 6 weeks ago, New York 19 and Alaska. So, 2 weeks before that election in New York, the Republican was up by 8. He lost by 2.
Right.
50 years since Alaska has elected a Democrat. So we can do this.
And she can't, Mary Peltola in Alaska, her campaign slogan was fish, family, and freedom. Because, in Alaska, you like your family, but not more than fish,
Right. Well, and also I think that
she meant pro-choice,
well, and also having done a little bit of work up there years ago, understanding how impactful being a member of, and I don't want to get the nomenclature wrong, being an indigenous person, right? Because it's not like, oh yeah, my family came over in 1905. Oh, really? Ours came over on the land bridge from Siberia, right? Like it's just a different thing. But Jason, you brought something up right before we went on air, to bring it back to cheating for a second, which is the mayor of Milwaukee just fired a local elections official, a Republican, who was trying to demonstrate that fraud was possible by committing fraud. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was actually Jamie who brought that up.
Oh, Jamie, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So she had requested 3 military ballots. She was a deputy elections commissioner and actually had those ballots sent to a local Republican state representative. And of course, she was immediately fired. She's under investigation. And basically the goal was to say, oh, look how easy it is for fraud. Well, sure, fraud can be easy if you're trying to do it, but 99% of Americans, that is not their intent. They don't think about it. It seems to only be Republicans when there's any type of election fraud.
Well, I mean, I guess, Jason, it's a lot easier to commit election fraud if you're sitting in the elections office and are able to send someone's ballot to a buddy of yours, right? It's a lot different if you walk down to the high school gymnasium, sign in, and cast your ballot.
Right. It's kind of a different game. Also, I'd just like to point out, she got caught.
Right.
That kind of defeats the purpose, right?
But let me ask you this, guys, because we saw down in Florida, just to switch gears for a second, because I want to talk a little bit about if you guys are seeing on the ground any voter intimidation. If your teams have had any reports of violence, which I'm hoping against hope we don't see. In Florida, they arrested several people who were they're felons, but they were nonviolent. They'd been re-enfranchised. In fact, I believe it was a county clerk who said, yes, you can register. And then Ron DeSantis's election police, or whatever he's called them, immediately goes and arrests them, which, he said he was going to do it. So we shouldn't be surprised. The bad guys, these particular brand of bad guys always tell you what they're going to do. But it also has a chilling effect on a whole bunch of other, re-enfranchised felons who have paid their court fees, who have paid their, whatever their fines, or whatever. Also, let's be clear that was a ballot measure that passed in 2018 with 65% support in the state of Florida. And then Ron DeSantis and the legislature immediately passed a poll tax to make it harder for those people to participate. Nonviolent felons, I should say. So are you guys seeing anything like that where there are goons and Hawaiians and AR-15s hanging out near drop boxes?
Arizona, yeah.
In Arizona,
right.
So in our voter drives, we have seen our live voter drives, which we have in I think every one of our 9 target states, swing states. We have not seen that. The thing is, it happens a few times. It happens, at one time is too many. But my point is, it just happens a few times, and that's amplified so much in the news, and you hear about it so many times, it makes it seem like it's ubiquitous, when in fact it's extremely rare. So I feel like that's more helpful to let people know and assure them, that it hardly ever happens. And
in fact, Ohio just today, in a city in Ohio, passed an ordinance really upping criminal penalties for voter intimidation and threatening poll workers.
And do you see any action from secretaries of state or attorneys general, reminding maybe potentially local elected officials, local elections officials, local sheriffs, local police departments about what the rules about these things are?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Josh Call running in Wisconsin certainly has. And, his office has been issuing guidance, and another reason Attorney General is so important is Josh Call's office is the one fighting this abortion ban that's on Wisconsin's books. And so if he loses, the other guy will immediately try to implement those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that in Arizona, Adrian Fontes is
sure.
Secretary of State. Yeah, he's brilliant. He's a
terrific guy.
He's
terrific guy.
Right, former Marine, brilliant guy. He was as recorder of Maricopa County. He was in charge of the election system that withstood the most scrutiny in America after the election, and it successfully.
Cyber ninjas all over the place.
Exactly, with the bamboo ballots.
Right.
And so it's great that he's running for Secretary of State, and he said specifically that he will, make sure to keep voting safe and secure. and transparent and be a voice of reason.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out, after the 2020 elections, all of the seats the Republicans won. If there was that much fraud, why didn't the Democrats pick up a few more House seats? While we're committing all this fraud to get Biden in. Just saying.
Well, listen, the beauty of being ready, willing, and able to lie about everything is that the truth it doesn't matter. So you can make up any excuse or just ignore it. All right, last couple of minutes here. Jamie, is there anything your organization, folks for you has surprised you this year?
I don't think I'm capable of surprise anymore. But the sheer willingness of Republicans to try to walk back everything they've said on camera. It's like, you were recorded saying that you can't do a 180 now that you won your primary. But I think the most important thing is talk to your friends, talk to your family, post on social media about the importance of this election. Every vote counts. Flashback to 2017, Virginia State House, we lost that chamber by one vote. Mm-hmm. So one vote can literally decide the direction of your entire state house chamber.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jason, how about?
What's surprising to me is how much the resistance that started in 2017 has held together despite multiple burnouts caused by Trump PTSD and COVID and just life in general. It's not only held together, and this is never reported on, but this network of organizations that blossomed after Trump's election, Indivisible, Swing Left, Field Team 6, later than that, but Demcast, so many organizations across the country blossomed, became stronger, and those volunteers, many of whom are class of 2016, like I am, have been training for 6 years now, and are a real fighting force in the organizing world. So while we're up against the toughest challenges we've faced yet, we're also the best trained we've ever been. And, if we can meet all these people halfway who are being hurt by Republican policies and being hurt by the Trump Supreme Court, I think we have what's most surprising to me is the shot that we do have right now. We were counted out because midterms, after a party takes power, you usually lose. Right. About 93% of the time. Right now, 538.com has given us the Senate and, saying no to the House. I feel like don't drink the poison. Don't listen to that. Keep your head down. Keep doing the work in these last 4 days. And, we'll see.
We don't agonize, we organize.
Well, amen to that. And I think guys out there, I think Jason makes an incredible point, which is you go back, as you said, Jason, 2017, 2018, the 2020 election, I think, these broad, diverse coalitions have come together. As you say, there's always a little bit of reformation and growth that has to happen in the wake of every election cycle, because the crucible of the election sort of shatters and people are tired. And look, that's all a natural reaction, right? But here we like to say, like, election days on Tuesday, we'll take a nap on Wednesday and get right back to work that afternoon. And I think that's what it's going to take. Jamie, where can fine folks find Demcast?
All of our are on all social media at Demcast USA, and our activist site is demcast.com. We have all of our social media toolkits up there under Amplify. They are updated pretty much on a daily basis.
All right. And Jason, how about you?
Volunteers can go to fieldteam6.org and under the actions menu, volunteer ops, we have stuff every day from now till the election and on election day all day long. Phone banks, social storms, text banks.
All right, gang. And as always, you can go to action.theunion.us and sign up as well. it's going to take every one of us, guys. I was out canvassing last weekend. I can tell you that that there were moments of frustration, moments of sadness even, but there were a few times when you walked out of a neighborhood or walked out of an apartment building and said, we just got 6 votes we didn't have before we got here. And that makes all the difference in the world. Well, listen, Jason, Jamie, I want to thank you for joining us. Everybody out there, thanks as always for everything. Remember LincolnProject.us or Project Lincoln on Twitter if you need anything. We're going to leave you with an ad that we've got for Wisconsin. And until then, guys, remember, if you have not voted and you can vote, friends, family, make plans, get out there and get it done. We can make this happen. And until next time, everybody, thank y'all.
Republicans will never lose another election in Wisconsin after I'm elected governor.
The Republicans that are for that have no place in office. I don't care what their policy position on taxes are.
We can't give power to people who have told us they won't respect the outcome of elections.
This country cannot survive outside of democracy.
Republicans will never lose another election in Wisconsin after I'm elected governor.
My party has really lost its way.